Hey, good morning. I figured I'd just jump right in. I was kind of thinking about my life today and where I'm at, and uh, s- thinking about my past and what brought me to this place, and where did my beginnings come from. And I remember as a child and throughout this whole entire process of of learning things, um, I've had a thirst for knowledge since I guess since I was born. So I learned to question everything all growing up. So I I think how this ties into this story is that as an early on learner, I was. I'll give you two examples. I had a a big tank truck, and it was remote controlled, and you pushed how many feet you want to go, left, right, front, back, and I love making this thing go around the house. So you can have it fire off. You had to think about all the steps that you had to do before you wanted it to do what it needed to do. So this big track or this programmable remote or programmable tank, I would play with it and I learned how to make it go, how many, go into the next room and next room and next room. And then you have to really think about every single step that it's got to take because if you wanted to go up 2 feet and make a left, you have to go 2L or go forward 8 or, turn right within 3 feet. So you had to really, it made you think about the pieces, almost like chess. So I remember when that thing finally died, and it made noise. You can program it to make all kinds of noises and sounds and lights up and stuff like that. But you had to think about every step and when you wanted to do it and how you wanted to do it and how it would get there and what it comes to the end. So after lots of time with that machine, I took that apart when it was over. So I was playing with it. I was enjoying what it was doing, and it had its time. And then when it finally died, I had to pull the thing apart and see how it was working for me then, which is kind of like a pickup or I'm learning after the fact how these things were working for me as I was doing them and what the computer was doing and what the tires were doing and what each wheel and axle. So when I pulled it apart, I got to see the mechanics of what made it go. And I wasn't satisfied, so I could pull every piece apart and learn what was there, what was given to me, what we paid for, what was invested in the toy. So learning about the toy, how it worked, why it worked, who created it, how did it get to be this place, and then what happens after, you know, this type of machine. Does it go to total remote control RF signals going back and forth? That was that was a way that I learned how to go through life, pick everything apart, see how it happened. And there was a second point too, and I pulled every was it a lawnmower I'd pull apart, I'd pull everything apart. Oh, and then the other one is recently our cord broke on our lawnmower, and not doing it before, I pulled it apart to try and repair it. So a push mower only costs like 300 bucks, but I pulled a spring off, tried to replace the cord, couldn't do it. I spent 4 hours working on a spring to go back to something that didn't work. So 4 hours to try to get something that could have taken somebody who knew what they were doing. It took me 4 hours without success. So that's how much time I'm willing to invest in anything to see its outcome to be the way it wanted. I didn't want to buy another lawnmower, but the thing is it's not going to work, and I have to get the grass cut. So, um, but it was really something in me to try to get that fixed. So I spent 2 days, okay, 2 hours one day, 2 hours another day, 4 hours altogether, and it didn't work. So I wasn't giving up, and I pulled the darn thing apart and tried to twist the wire and make the springs move differently and put the wire, get it all lined up so you can pull yank it to start. And I never got it to work, but I gave it my best. I mean, 4 hours on a lawnmower, that's probably excessive, but I didn't want to give up. I wanted to win, and that's how I felt about it. And that's kind of how I've been learning things my entire life, and picking everything apart. So that carried on to businesses that I've worked on, companies that I've worked for. That was made me a good consultant because I'm able to look at a situation, break it down, pull it apart, put it back together again, and then repackage it into a better product. And that's what the consultation services that I freelance have done for companies is that same sort of concept. That's kind of how you either rebrand or build or change things, is by identifying what they are and then learning how to use the tools to do that. So a lot of these things are like patterns in life and nature. Um, a lot of things do have patterns. There are certain things that were brought to mind, but to switch subjects, I told my mom about 2 months ago. I said, I think I know why this woman has spent years abusing my son, abusing the people around her, and the people within Bucks County, and my family. And, growing up, as I was talking about my mom before, there's certain patterns that people kind of do. And, when I met my nieces and nephews when I was 20, or 21, I learned about kids, and I learned what they like, what they don't like, how to play with them, how to enjoy them, how to make them laugh, and how to be serious, and how to keep, your boundaries, and, being in a funkle to my nieces and nephews and getting that experience, and then going into church and helping out with those age groups. So I got a lot of experience with that. I'm saying this because of patterns. I was able to learn about what I like, the enjoyment that I was able to get out of kids, and teaching them um, to learn about themselves and learn about life. And I love teaching kids, and I've been doing that for you know, so long. So when my child came around, I already knew what kind of parent I was going to be. I didn't repeat the same patterns that I received. Now I'm saying that because um, my home was very quiet. It was very calm. It was very peaceful, and it was a lot of love and a lot of tenderness, a lot of care, and a lot of joy, and a lot of peace and serenity. And um, that's that was my house, and that always was like that. And my neighbors can testify to that. My family can testify to that. Um, Friends can testify to that. Co-workers can testify to that. Um, but growing up, I had the opposite. The house was crazy. It was loud. We were loud as kids. We used to fight, and we used to play, and we used to do sports, and we used to do lots of fun things. But the fighting and the arguing were like always there throughout my childhood. And then when I saw that being done with my sister and her family, I made sure I was changing the way that I parented. I'm not going to repeat the mistakes of my parents. I'm not saying that calling it a mistake, but I'm not going. I wanted something better for my son, better than what I did. So I utilize all the years of knowledge prior to him being born, and I brought that to the table. My sister raised her kids, loud house, screaming, yelling, fighting, blah, blah, blah. And there was a one holiday, I think I explained this before on video, that when my family came up for a visit, my son's sitting playing Sorry in the living room with everybody, and then all of a sudden they're all fighting. My nephews, my sister, my mom, they're all yelling, and my son is turning and saying, "Hey guys," he's got to be like 5 or 6 years old. He goes, "Hey guys, we don't fight in this house." And they all stopped, and they all laughed, and they're like looking at this little kid saying, "What do you're telling us adults that we need to stop?" So it was a very teachable. I was in the kitchen cooking something, and I remember clearly hearing that little boy tell them without being prodded. I'm in one room, he's there, and he's saying, "We don't fight in this house." And that was such a moment where I don't even go around telling people to be quiet. I don't have to. I speak low, and it's all responded to because of my tone. I don't have to raise my voice. I never did. I can look at my son, he can look at me, and he knows what I'm feeling. I don't have to yell at him. We have that connection, we have that bond. So I raised my son to be very close for everything, as far as, teaching him how to be a good boy. So he got a good grounding in my home, which I'm very, very proud of. I mean, to hear him be bold and to tell his grandmom and his aunt and his nephews that we don't do that here. This house, we don't do that. You may do it at your house, but here. So I noticed that my sisters had the same patterns that my mom did. Understandably, some people repeat patterns. I didn't, but I observed them and I learned from those things. And I found it really concerning when I came to the conclusion that I feel as though, based upon the abuse that my son has suffered from early on, both physically and emotionally, I believe that she's repeating a pattern that has happened in her own house. So why am I fear of my son? Well, because FDIA is the most lethal form of child abuse. And I have warned Bucks County, asked them not to interview her without him being safe, just to say that if I come out and say something like this, because of the patterns that she has shown me through the 24 years, the amount of abuse and lies that she spewed to everybody else has got to reflect on her own feelings of abuse. How did she get these patterns of abuse, of the lies, of the every day something else, the distraction? Nothing was ever done to help Joshua in his benefit, and I don't think her family knows about this. But I feel like she's been abused because she repeats the same patterns. So she came out of the gate with me to beat me up and to knock me down and to knock out, and she attempted that. But I got up and I kept going, and I never gave up on my son. I didn't understand what was going on. I'm learning about it now. I'm doing my best. But to learn these years of denying the truth and the years of misrepresenting herself to my family, the years that she has misrepresented herself to Bucks County, the years that she's not told her own family the truth about what's happened, that's got to mean that she's got to be somewhere inside of her fighting with somebody that came into her life and violated her because she tried to tell somebody, and when she did, she got nothing in return. So ask me, based upon my 25 years of experience with this woman, somebody somewhere beforehand. You don't repeat patterns of neglect and abuse at this level unless you were so serious at that time and told somebody and you were serious and they didn't believe you. It's kind of like where I'm at. So to make that connection, it kind of feels like you've been kind of telling me for 25 years how upset and abused you were as a child, that you took it out on Josh, took it out on me, took it out on my family, took it out on your family, and to try to be, you've been bitter at the world for so long that you don't understand what's right and what's wrong. Like, your choices you've made have been hurting our son and not helping him. So I told them that I believe she's repeating patterns of her own abuse. So that seems more logical. I don't feel as though I don't I don't know where they would teach the things that I learned about what this woman could possibly do as a mother. I don't know where they teach a school of thought where you hide and you neglect and you don't tell the truth and you lie to doctors and you lie to the schools and you lie to. I don't know where that is that's taught. So I'm assuming it's all done within the home that she grew up in. So I kind of feel like, if her relatives knew something more than I did, but I feel as though the one or two times she was abused by this person that was entrusted within her family, within her life, and when she was in Chambersburg, in Trenton, in Chambersburg, New Jersey. I'm assuming it's a close friend of the family. With a dad having a barbershop in Trenton, he knew important people, mobsters, elected officials. That's where you got your hair and your shave done back in the time. He was an important man. She was around in the family somehow, and something happened, and something she didn't like, and something that hurt her. And then all of a sudden, she went to go tell somebody, and they didn't believe her. They said this person couldn't do this, blah blah blah. She says, "Okay, I'll show you." And then this is the outcome of that person back in there, because this whole entire time, throughout all of her messages to me, they were like she was talking to somebody else. She would say words like in that voicemail that I posted about her with the picture of her up on she was talking to somebody else. She was making up the whole entire situation and something that wasn't there, and she said things that weren't true, and she pretended that she knew something. So I see a lot of that, and the patterns that she keeps doing, it's like she's talking to somebody else. I'm getting the physical end of it and the emotional abuse end of her problem, because if she was able to tell the truth, I wouldn't have been in what I've gone through. And same thing with Josh. But these patterns of lies and lie and changing and manipulating and terminating and hurting, like, these are strong things that she did throughout his life, making him fall down and not calling 911 and a 70 G plus hit to the head, and you don't call 911. Like, that's serious. Whatever happened with her childhood, or if I'm talking to her right now, whatever happened in your childhood where you think that, it's okay to abuse, it's not. And you did for so long, and that's not what's right for Josh. So I don't care what you went through in your childhood. I only care about what happened with Josh in his childhood, and my responsibility as a father to see him get an MRI or CAT scan and see a neurologist so we can figure out how bad it is, and he doesn't suffer more because of it. Because it'd be a really tragic story to find out that if any of the parts of the things that I'm saying is true, come to find out that I've been a victim of your childhood trauma, and you've caused Bucks County this loss and this frustration and the lies. Once they find out what you were doing, when you were doing it, there's going to be a story. I mean, your coworkers are probably going to see some of these videos and start asking questions. And if I start laying it down, I want the truth to be told, and that's all I care about. So I explained to my mom and my sister that I believe that this is what happened, because it's very, very far-fetched. In the 60s, you grew up where she was in Trenton. Um, they were an Italian family in the mob and beginning era. So I can't help but to think that if you're cutting people's hair in the 60s, 70s, 80s, when that was important, then they had to have met at the barber shop. So there were important people around. So it's not far fetched to think that I'm far off because I've done my due diligence, even though Bucks County has refused to do their due diligence. I have. So this is what I offered them to explain to them. This is what I feel, and based upon the evidence that I can stand up and say this without a doubt in my mind that this pain that she's suffering suffered from her childhood because she's repeating the same exact patterns that she learned from her good Italian family, a Catholic family. He didn't deserve it. You don't want to look at it. I've been trying to shed a light on looking at our son for so long to bring the flashlight and say, look, this is a problem, this is a problem, to address him so he can have a better future. That's all I've been saying. That's been my message. That's what I want. And because you ignore everything, okay. Well, you're hiding. I think coming out and telling your side of the story would be a great start. Because it would kind of relieve a lot of things with Joshua to know that how bad it was for you to grow up, and kind of explain to him so he can grow up and not repeat the same things that he learned from you. I want him to learn to be a great father and great man because of the things that I taught him, because I spent time with him and I showed him I loved him and I read his books to him and I was there for him. I clothed him and bathed him and loved him and cared for him because that's what you do. So I would love to hear how this theory is wrong. Somebody, some family member, somebody from Bucks collaborate any of this stuff? Ask me questions. I'm curious. I couldn't explain it more. But I have the facts to back up everything I said. Somebody who I just met, I couldn't size them up like this. But my 25-year history, the long time, I've been able to look into the life and lives, and I have looked very carefully and out of close examination, based on the facts, based on the evidence, based on the FDIA, the lies of the doctor, and lies of the court, and everything. There's definitely something serious here, and it's so serious that I do worry about their lives. Like I said, the FDIA is the most lethal form of child abuse, and it's not too late for her to do. My fear is her of you know I fear that she's going to hear these things and she's going to not like the fact that she's lied for so long, and then I fear for that. I fear that she's going to not be able to handle the embarrassment, or the truth for Josh. So, and then I've feared for Josh's life for so long because of all this information that I have based on that. So, the Gypsy Rose story is kind of true. But if you look at it, FDIA for what it is, it's all about lies and manipulation.